Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Big Apple Hockey. And it's just really an update for the breaking news that we have going on right now, although it's the slowest breaking news possibly in the history of breaking news. But I mean, and the Rangers already had that a couple times this year when Patrick Kane came to the team. But I am your host, Mark Williams, who is blissfully writing an article that you should be reading soon enough on Kako and Lafreniere and Stock Up and Stock Down. But also that I wish I had some time later on. I had it slated to play some Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I have been enjoying that as much as Filk has. And I got to tell you, it's one of the best games I've ever played. Yeah. But you know what? This is big news. We have to talk about this. So we have to come on today. Now, for many of you that have been tuning into us, we've been talking about the possibility of Peter Laviolette being named head coach of the New York Rangers, and Arthur Staple made it official that, and so have the New York Rangers, by the way. They tweeted that. They've tweeted that out just in the last few minutes. Let's go to that right here. You can see right there. There is Laviolette, and welcomed by the New York Rangers. Finally, we don't have to worry about the BS that kept on surrounding it, naming different ones every time that there's ever a Rangers opening for a head coach. It's always talked about that Marc Messier is an option. Always love hearing that one. But guys, I'm going to get into my thoughts on this one. I'm going to give you the statistics on them, and then I'm going to open it up to all the comments that I can. Participate in our poll. How many times am I going to mispronounce Peter Laviolette's name so far? Pretty good. But let's get to his record because this is to tell you how long he's been coaching. I have ties. I have the list. So 752 wins, 503 losses, 25 ties, and 150 overtime losses. A win percentage of .587. That's still pretty good. Laviolette's accomplishments. I mispronounced accomplishments for a moment. He won the Stanley Cup with the Carolina Hurricanes. Almost said the Carolina Panthers on that one. I am betting 1,000 right now on everything not Laviolette's name. He won the Eastern Conference with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he won the Western Conference with the Nashville Predators. He is eighth most in wins in NHL history, most by an American-born head coach. You could argue he is the best American coach of all time, even over John Tortorella and Herb Brooks. So, and he was also, by the way, a former New York Rangers prospect. But is Laviolette the best hire for the New York Rangers? And that's a bit of a tough question to answer, because I think he's the best of this bunch. 7 years ago, when it was 2013 and Tortorella was the guy they were replacing, I was all up, go get Peter Laviolette. And it didn't happen. They got Alain Vigneault, and then they fired him, I think, only 2 weeks in to the 2013-2014 season. Now, is this guy a good coach? Of course he is. You don't assemble a record like that, 752 wins, without him being a good coach. I understand why fans are a little bit not wowed by this. And you got to think about one thing, and I've joked around about this, that it's if I was the New York Rangers, I would just, if I was a person, and if I broke up with and I was in a bad relationship, I just broke up with my coach, I'm gonna just go off on my own for a little bit. But the problem is they need a head coach, and out of the bunch, Laviolette is the best of the bunch. He's sort of a no-brainer. Mike Babcock would have been another choice. And as much as these names aren't wowing anybody in the comments, I got 20 of you so far. 22 of you are watching right now. Thank you very much. Everybody, make sure you're sharing, and subscribing. And also, feel free to participate in the poll question. How many times am I going to mispronounce Laviolette's name? But this wasn't exactly a great like pool to figure out who to be the coach from. And one thing I've also been contending is the name Chris Knobloch was starting to become more of an intriguing one. Get a different voice in there, get a different perspective. Knobloch was good when he ran the bench when David Quinn was out with COVID. But on the other hand, this team is a very, you have to be going for a Stanley Cup. You can't do it with a rookie head coach. It's not going to happen. One of the things that shocked me last night, changing gears slightly for the NBA, just to put this in perspective, that the Denver Nuggets coach won a championship in his 8th year. When was the last time a coach had 8 years with a team in almost in any sport other than Bill Belichick, who has been the same coach for the last 20 years? It doesn't happen very often. And coaches are hired to be fired. We always go with that. As the saying goes, I forgot which axiom, I guess you want to go with. Too many words went through my mind at the same time. But the problem is that the Rangers, and it was obvious to all the Gerard Gallant defenders that are out there, why'd they get rid of Gerard Gallant? He has such a great record. But the problem is it's clear that team lacks structure. And going forward, this team is going to need structure, especially against a team like the New Jersey Devils, like the Carolina Hurricanes. There are other teams in the division. I don't know exactly if they're coming up or coming down. You can argue the Islanders could get better. You could argue that the Penguins could get slightly better or worse, as well as the Washington Capitals. This guy is a good hire. I have to keep going back and saying it over and over again. It's not like the Rangers hired Dan Bilesma. They hired Peter Laviolette, and he's taken 3 teams to the Stanley Cup Finals. He's one of 3 coaches to do that: Scotty Bowman, Mike Keenan, and Peter Laviolette. Now, in the last decade, Bruce Cassidy, who's coaching, and by the way, I'm going to come back to the Stanley Cup Finals tonight because I do have to say this. Bruce Cassidy is coaching one of 2 teams to the Stanley Cup Finals tonight. And that's obviously the Vegas Golden Knights and the Boston Bruins back from 2019. And he's done that. Laviolette's done that from 2010 to 2017. And Alain Vigneault did that in 2011 and 2014. And I understand what everybody's kind of saying. I'm going to get to your comments in a moment. 29 of them are right there. It's just that it's something that it's kind of a feeling like you just got the American version of Alain Vigneault. Like they're going to be good for 1 or 2 seasons, and then you're going to have to fire them, which is very possible. That's very possible. But right now, you need a coach that knows how to win a Stanley Cup. And clearly, he's done that. And a matter of fact, he beat Lindy Ruff in order to do that, something that Gerard Gallant could not. And this is a coach that has been successful in every stop he's ever had. Let's go to his record right now. That if you look at it, he's gotten, speaking about Bruce Cassidy, there he is right there. You look at right here with the Islanders, 2 seasons with the Islanders, the worst he did was 3rd place and slightly over 500 in his 2nd season. He goes to Carolina, starts building the team. They have the year before the lockout, they're in 3rd place. Then it was 1st place. Now, one caveat to this is I believe there was 5 teams per division at the time. So being in 3rd was good, but not great sometimes. Then he wins the Stanley Cup, but then they become the first team since the 96 Devils to miss the Stanley Cup after the Stanley Cup playoffs after winning the Stanley Cup. So there's that. And he goes through this phase right over here where 2nd or 3rd place, usually the Capitals. And then Eastern Conference champions his 1st year with the Philadelphia Flyers. So it's not like he can't succeed with a team in his 1st year. And we're going to get to the young players in a moment. But then 2011, not really much of a run. I think they won 1 series. And a matter of fact, if you remember the 2010 team, as I highlight that again, that was when Glenn Sather said the Flyers stole their run. Jody Shelley had the only goal in that shootout game, remember? And by the way, P.A. Parento only had the only goal in the shootout. But then again, we get through the same process, 100 points in consecutive seasons, and then a fall off to 49, and then 3 games gone in 2014. He goes to Nashville. 100 points, and then a pretty decent run in 2015, 2016, but then boom, just snuck into the playoffs, 94 points, and then they won 14 games, the most that franchise has ever won in their playoff history. So then, obviously, a couple more adequate years with Nashville. I mean, 100. Well, actually, they won I thought they won the President's Trophy this year in 2018. So I have to double check that. But they didn't have any playoff success. They were beaten pretty quickly, I think, in that series, in that run. Anyway, 2019, and then he kind of flames out, goes to the Capitals for, I'm surprised it was 3 seasons. Because it was 2021 when he was first there. I thought it was only 2022. But again, the Capitals team, as far as their talent level goes, they were definitely a diminishing product. And that's why, again, I give this guy not really a pass in Washington, but the fact that even in his days in Washington, let's look at that winning percentage in Washington. Washington was probably his worst stop, and it was 584 winning percentage. Actually, his worst winning percentage was with the New York Islanders, and they were a pretty good team back then. If you remember correctly, they believed the first year he had the 5th seed, and that was the epic series where it went 7 games, where the Islanders ended up losing both Michael Pekka and Kenny Johnson in that series. It was actually game 5 of that series at Toronto, and I could still remember those boards rattling when Gary Roberts hit Kenny Johnson. All right. But I'm gonna get to your comments right now. But first, I think he's just the best of the bunch, and it's not something that's going to win the press conference. I do want everybody to think about this. I'll have to tweet this out later to make this point. And let's go back to tonight in the Stanley Cup Finals. Who among us was even pumped up in any way to see Paul Maurice be named the Panthers head coach? Paul Maurice. I mean, I think I put up the meme from Beauty and the Beast where Gaston says, "Crazy old Maurice." Yes. And look at him now. This guy is, granted, obviously, the Golden Knights can win the series tonight. He's 3 wins away from the Stanley Cup right now. And this is a guy who is a retread. Everybody looks at him the same way that they're looking at Laviolette right now. Almost got you right there. And it's you can still get a coach with plenty of experience that knows what they're doing and actually succeed with the team. We're going to see about that, guys, because there's a lot that we're going to have to do. Obviously, by the way, it's not officially the A block, but we are sponsored by SeatGeek. Make sure that you use the promo code Big Apple Hockey, $20 off your first order when you make an account. Because after all, I mean, you could go see concerts, shows, anything. But you also can't argue with this. I mean, 8th most wins in NHL history. And I know what some people are saying. All right, what about the young prospects? What about all these guys that they want to develop? Lafreniere, Kakko, Hedel. Well, in his track record, he's developed. He's everywhere he's gone. He had a hand in, and I never even mentioned this, but he had a big hand in developing Eric Staal. Like Eric Staal, if you look at his numbers in 2006, you thought this guy was a budding superstar, and instead he's just been like a star, very good. But a lot of those Carolina guys back at that time, I talked about Sean Bates came out of nowhere. Victor Arvidsson, he had a real hand in Roman Josi becoming a better player. The Flyers, you got Claude Giroux, you had Scotty Hartnell, even though Scotty Hartnell had a couple years under Trotz in Nashville at the time. I got so many coaches that switch places all the time that I'm a little bit logged up here. But enough about my thoughts. I do think this guy is a good hire. Am I impressed by this? No. Am I hoping that they won the press conference? Of course not. I don't think that. I mean, he could come in next week. I mean, first off, by the way, you get anything is better than the Gerard Gallant introductory press conference. Granted, it was during COVID. It was during a tough time for him, but I mean, it looked like there was a halo around him in that one. At least now we get a real introductory press conference where you get to hear some of his thoughts. But this guy's a hockey coach. That's all that matters. That's what the Rangers need. Get somebody that gets in there, knows how to win games, knows how to win playoff series. Because if you want to really be critical about Gerard Gallant, the Rangers were a little bit lucky last year. Now, I still think the Rangers were the better team in all three. Their 2 series wins. But again, you had that team that was up 2-0 to the defending Tampa Bay Lightning, and what they're even up 2-0 in Game 3, and then after that series was all Lightning. You're up 2-0 in Game 3, midway through the game with a chance to close it out, and Gerard Gallant couldn't do it. That's the reason why Gerard Gallant's not here. Everybody, they're up 2-0 against the Devils, and they completely ran roughshod over them. And that is the reason why, again, Gerard Gallant is gone, because after those 2 wins, it was basically all Devils. So I know a lot of people are going to comment right now. I'm going to get to it. Now it's 63. I'm going to get to all those comments in a second. But it's just that's the reason why they're not here. They need a guy who could at least do something with younger players, who can put some trust in younger players, but also a guy that gets through to veterans. Some guys that end up having career seasons under him, and at least can get his team to win in the playoffs. Because as much as I would like to see a guy like, say, for instance, Bruce Boudreau, his teams do not win in the playoffs. And there isn't a nicer guy in all of hockey. And we'll get to that later. So let's get to your thoughts on Laviolette. Make sure, everybody, if you haven't done it already, that you've hit that subscribe button. Make sure you appease the YouTube gods, because unfortunately, that's the way all this works. Or you could just smash that like right there. All right, let's start getting to your comments and getting to all these. Will's Gredia, hey, how's it going? And yes, it's official, because there was the sign that was on there. And yes, Filk broke that news. Let's also see and make sure that that's on mute right there. All right, Rich, I'm definitely getting your comment that's down at the bottom over there. But let's go with Dan is very happy about that. Experience and discipline, the best option, Stanley Cup coach. Not my first choice, but Mike Sullivan is available. He would be my other choice. I joked around about it in the video. If you guys haven't seen it, why were they delaying this? Because, by the way, the more that they were delaying it, I was ready for Laviolette to go, all right, I could go coach the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, there were the 3 most attractive head coaching availabilities this offseason would have been, and I would put them in this order: the New York Rangers, and then I would say the Calgary Flames, and then I would say the Toronto Maple Leafs, because the Toronto Maple Leafs have a lot of roster questions. But there we go on that. David is saying, I'm sure he'll be very meticulous for the next 2.5 years until he is fired. Yes. And also think about another coach that is the same way. Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer just took his team to the conference finals. Don't you want to be watching your team as much as you can? That's why when I hear things about get Patrick Waugh, get somebody out of the box. If you get somebody out of the box, you might not get a Jared Bednar, who still took at least 4 years to figure it all out. At least 4 years. Core, Phil broke the news on the lottery, and yes, thank you. And matter of fact, I was sworn to secrecy, so I couldn't even mention it either. We actually make sure we protect our sources. All right. And of course, hello. B-Rye is saying, got clowns saying Gallant is better than Laviolette. Really? Absolutely. Let me know when Gallant takes 3 teams to the Stanley Cup Finals. And again, I wish Gerard Gallant all the success in the world. Please, by all means, go off, win a Stanley Cup after the New York Rangers do. Absolutely. Gerard Gallant's a good man. I will never argue against that. But I got to say this. I was firing him in game 5 of this series. They were up 2-0, 10-2. And you can't make basic adjustments. Where on the other hand, Lindy Ruff just said, all right, we'll just change things up a little bit. And it's not just changing lines, everybody. It's not just changing lines. The Devils schemed the Rangers out. As a matter of fact, in game 3, yes. And by the way, if Igor Shesterkin doesn't take a penalty on Timo Meier, that might have been a 3-0 series lead. I'll tell you what, the way that series went, I wouldn't have been surprised if the Devils won the next 4 games, because that's how bad the adjustments were. David is saying, it depends. Let Sullivan go. And we do fire PL and get Sullivan. I would quickly make Sullivan the assistant coach. That's what I would do. But it's clear that there's a whole new staff that's coming in, except for, of course, Benoit Allaire. That guy's got a job for life. So, hey, Mark, I'm happy about the hire. I am not over the moon about it, but he was the best choice out there. Matt, I got to agree with you on that. He's the best choice. And like, what are we going to do? I mean, what are the New York Rangers going to do? But as a fan, as a player, whatever you want to say, just what are you going to do when you look at what else is out there? Is there really an exciting candidate? What, Kyle Dubas? Sorry, not Kyle Dubas, the other idiot. Sheldon Keefe. Does that make you happy? All right. And Cora saying, not so much glad that, yeah, I would say I'm happy with it that the coaching saga is over. I'm fine with this. Realistically, there were no better options. Yes, and Cora, we just need to move Laffy to right wing, and we're off to the races. There's going to be a lot of oh God. All right, see, this is what happens when I'm catching up to it. I want to change my answer to 10 plus infinity. So obviously, this is definitely the best poll question right now. 10 plus infinity is leading on how many times I'm going to mess up Laviolette's name. All right. So, and no, I wasn't practicing on the way in. I just wanted to, and I wasn't sipping any vodka or anything to help get to 10 plus infinity, but I just had to do just this one. I'm definitely going to mess it up 1,000,001 times, because I think most of my life I was calling them, I forgot how I mispronounced the name now. All right. Even our kids are far from rookies, which is why I think Laviolette. See, did it. All right. There's another one, guys. Laviolette's fine. Best available coach. Big Apple Hockey can reset the poll. No, just don't worry about it. Justin Laviolette. Jay, thank you very much. Jay Lewis is saying Laviolette is great with young players. Claude Giroux, Wayne Simmons, James Van Riemsdyk, Roman Josi, Phil Forsberg. That's Eric Stahl, Justin Williams. And yes, Justin Williams when he was still fairly young, after his stint in Philadelphia under Hitchcock. Then you had Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, all younger than 24 that had success under Laviolette. Yes, that's a great one. And Knobloch is the German word for garlic. We don't have any problems versus vampires. That's a good one. That's a good one, Dominic. All right, David saying, my question is a lot around here. Thinks that this will be Drury's last hire and doesn't have the job security. If that's the case, why not swing for the fence and not get a retread? Nope. With 3 years max, no. The reason why is because if they're successful, he can actually clear house and fire the coach and get another one if he's successful. You're not selling James Dolan on that. You weren't going to sell him on Knobloch. You weren't going to sell him on. If this was 2018, we're in a different situation, because then you can get a guy like, say, for instance, John Hines, or Chris Knobloch, and put him in there. Or even, how about this one? This would be the situation that would work. Marc Messier. You can't take Marc Messier and put him on a team that's capable of winning the Stanley Cup. And the Rangers are probably on a short list, maybe 8 teams that could potentially win the Stanley Cup next year. And look, maybe 10, you could argue at the beginning of the year. But then again, how many people have the Florida Panthers in here, realistically? Especially, how many had him in here in March? And again, who did they hire? They hired a retread. They hired a guy that knew what he was doing. And what did he do? He took out the best team ever. Although I still maintain that they weren't, because after all, Linus Ullmark had won as many playoff games as I did coming in. So Sean is saying I'm fine with the coaching hire. David saying if you have to say it over and over again, maybe you're just trying to convince yourself. Yeah, also because after all, I have to do this because, that's just my analyst. And yeah, I think you also do have to convince yourself on this one, because I don't think a lot of people are wowed. I think this is a lot like this is a lot like the Paul Maurice thing, going to the Florida Panthers. And Pete, hey, what's up? And yes, Laviolette, there's number 3. Laviolette has a cup pedigree from the Canes fans. If we fire Laviolette, that means Drury is a goner. I think it's a short-term thing. If he's fired after 2 years, gone. And there isn't that loyalty to Drury that there is to oh boy. I think I have the title wrong. Okay, there we go. Now it's fixed. All right, our broadcast must be scheduled in the future. Okay, well then, all right. I misspelled official. How about that one? Thanks a lot, Will. B. Ryan saying I'm not convinced this will be a short stay. I could see him lasting 5 to 6 years. And you know what? Here you go. Let's see. He lasted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years with Nashville, and he made the playoffs 5 times. He was 1, 2, 3, 4 years with the Flyers, plus 3 games in his 5th season, and he made the playoffs 3 times. He was with Carolina 5 seasons, and he made the playoffs once, and he won the Stanley Cup. Wow, how about that? He made the playoffs both years with the Islanders. I mean, that's another one. And also with Washington. And by the way, think about this. He was probably a minute and a half away from putting the Panthers on their knees last year and beating them. So it's right there. Talent and skill, yeah, I still think we do lack structure. Okay, that's what Mike is saying. I think with some roster adjustments, see, there. All right, there's another one. Do we have somebody on a counter right now on how many times I messed it up? I just need to make sure I got this one. Laviolette as head coach. I'm going to start slowing down to say his name. I don't want to get to 10, guys, if I'm there. It might be the nudge this team needs to take the next step to the next level. And you know what? They're not thinking about, you got to think more than just regular season success. Yes, Gerard Gallant back-to-back 100-point seasons. But you know what? You went from a team that went to the 3rd round last year, was a favorite to win in the 1st round, was a bit of an upset to win in the 2nd round. But you also got to look at it and say, Igor Shesterkin is making $6 million right now. They need to capitalize on some of the talent they got in the cap space and then move on from there. Everybody, by the way, in case if you're new right now, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We got 18 likes right now and 52 of you watching at the moment. The other thing I would need to remind you about is our weekly show is tomorrow night, and there is a chance Filk might be able to join me in this chat right now today. All right, Wilbur is saying hopefully he gives Kakko and Lafreniere power play one time. Wilbur, 100% right. And I like, again, Vinny Trocheck came in and did a great job. You know what? I'm gonna stick with great. He did a great job. You got to develop Kakko and Lafreniere. And I'm not sure if Lafreniere's position is right in front of the net, where that's another reason why I'm not in love with re-signing Kane or re-signing Tarasenko. They had plenty of talent to get this done. Wicked, how we doing? And also, yeah, everything's going good. You know, hopefully, see what more your Isles can do. We're going to be talking more about them tomorrow. Mike is saying I would like Laffy on the right wing. Kreiner and Zibanejad, they look good together, and And then we can reload the kid line. No, I don't want the kid line together anymore. They're just helping each other out. They're not really, and look, it's good, but I don't think that's the future. I think you need to actually start splitting those guys up. And again, that was something that Gallant would just constantly do. You just go right back to the kid line. No, well, they might be forced together because they're just together all the time. Eddie Shore, old time hockey, piss on old time hockey. One of the best moments of that. Who owned the Chiefs? Owns the Chiefs. Can't talk about a Ranger. Pete says, can't talk about a Rangers Flyers shootout without Olli Jokinen. And yes, I'm still bitter about Olli Jokinen. How many of you guys are bitter about Olli Jokinen? Throw it down in the comments below, because me personally, I still wonder how he didn't do anything besides go 5-hole. Everyone in the building knew he was going 5-hole, and Boucher knew he was going 5-hole. Boucher even kind of flinched early. He had the entire top of the net. If he just goes and then roofs it. And he was one of the best shootouts. I think he was the best shootout player of all time at that moment. If not him or his brother, but still. David's saying, Mike, we have right wing, one right wing, no cap space, okay, defense, and no captain who can, no center who can actually win a faceoff. That's actually not true. Trocheck can. The only reason why we had success the last 2 years was Igor Panarin, but then and then Panarin in P. I guess PO means that he's not good in the playoffs. So anyway, I do have to agree with that somewhat. I think Zibanejad and Kreider the last 2 years. Kreider had that renaissance 50-goal season. I don't think it's an outlier, especially that if he had, 36 or 38 this year. I forgot. But this is, I mean, there's talent on this team, but I think you got to shuffle that deck. But also, as Mike is bringing up right here, Brendan Ottman is going to be here and he can play the right wing. And I don't know if he's going to start with the Pack. They wanted him to start this year, but he's got that slot contract. They had to do that. David's saying, I would like to see the kids as line 2, Kreider and Tro and line 3. And by the way, Kreider and Trocheck together, I think that's a good line. I actually think that is a good line. That could work. As good as you think you can ask in terms of who's available. And Matador, you're right about that one. Right about that one. By the way, I think I owe you something, because I think I said 50 points out of Kako, and I only got 40 this year. So I said 50 points. 40 is still pretty good, but right, we're cash strapped right now, so we don't want to acquire a right wing. I'd rather move Laffy, who looked good before Gallant tore it down. And again, here's a problem right now, and this is an article we're going on right now because I'm currently writing for the website, which is prospects that players gave up on, because a lot of people kind of want to give up on Kakko and Lafreniere. I don't know why. I mean, they're 40-point scorers, and you get 2 of them for about, and trust me, Lafreniere's not re-signing for over $3 million. You're going to get them both for about $5 million. That's less than Ryan Strome, and you're getting production out of 2 players. Sorry, guys. You got to keep these guys. They're cost controlled. It's what you have to do. And then if you walk them into UFA status, and you tell them to go fuck off, if that's the case. So, I am the furthest bit relieved from relieved about this. It's going to be a question. I know it's a blasé hire, but still. The first season of Maurice's career where he met expectations, then they were high. Yeah, and then I do agree with you on that one, Pete, that the expectations just became sky high on him, and then that's about it. Florida is basically this year's Montreal Canadiens. Sorry, I actually don't believe that. The Montreal Canadiens that year, I do believe in 2020 they were one of the most fortunate teams until the 3rd round. The 3rd round, then Pete DeBoer's Vegas Golden Knights decided to, Pete DeBoer everything. Because if you remember that first game, the one where Carey Price winked, they lost that game. They were down 1-0 in the series, and I think they won the series in 5. if I recall correctly. It was a bit of a joke. So this year's Panthers team, I think they caught lightning in a bottle. I think Bobrovsky figured out who he used to be, for one thing, and Matt Tkachuk is just on another level right now. Is he going to play tonight? He's a game time decision. I don't know if there's been any word because I've been too busy on Laviolette. So do we have, by the way, does anybody have a counter on the amount of times I've mispronounced Laviolette? I'll get to that in a second. I'll take a look at what you got right here. All right. And as Will's saying, yeah, but I mean, I think I made a pretty good case on it. The 2020 Canadians, they were down 3-1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who lost John Tavares. They didn't match up well, and also they made mistake after mistake after mistake. And once momentum went against them, they were done. And then in the second round, the Canadians were playing the Jets. They win game one. Scheifele levels Evans and gets suspended the rest of the series. So now the Jets lose their best player. But I got to give Montreal all the credit in the third round. However, I mean, after losing the first game, they dismantled the Golden Knights. Sean was saying Laviolette is big on grit and toughness too. No, he's big on both of those, but he also values skill. That's a big thing about him. Like, you didn't see him trying to get Claude Giroux to block shots or something like that. All right. Yeah, GG had 200-point seasons, and he thinks it's absurd that he got that he had to answer the question. Oh, wait, he's fired. I didn't do justice to the reading on that, Willie, but it's there. And yeah, I was hoping to collaborate with you sometime. We'll have to still do that. Florida is a better team than the Canadians, B. Rye is saying. And yeah, all-time hockey jamming. Gallant was AV minus the bubblegum and smug. Ooh, that is pretty damning. And Jay Lewis mentioning all the other young talent he's had. Ariana, welcome back. Can we just see something different, please? I don't want to go into next season and the lines are the same and give the kids some more meaningful roles. I think you have to do that. I think you still have to do that. You have to. There's been no investment in the kids, and it's one of those things, hell or high water. And I think it's because that there was sort of that false sense of security that they were going to go on this big playoff run in 2019, 2020, when David Quinn was there, and David Quinn was talking big, and we all thought he was going to be the next big thing. And at least I thought it. I started buying in. I was wrong. So. And yeah, Mark, I still make mistakes. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. All right. Kako and Lafreniere will not be on the third line next season. No, they won't. And another thing is, I think it's about time you get one of those guys some extra special teams times. And again, if you're not getting your ice time you want, you walk up to your coach and say, hey, can I PK a little bit? Kako was doing it a little bit last year. So was Lafreniere. I think this team is a 500 team without a coach on autopilot. I agree with you on that one. I think there's enough talent and Igor Shesterkin to mask any problems. The real question I have that's going to be coming in is, and everybody's talking about the kid line. Everybody's talking about giving the young players bigger roles. What is going to be the role of Keandre Miller, Braden Steiner, and to a different extent, Jacob Trouba? Do they split up the Trouba-Miller pairing? That could be a big thing. And if that is, then you might, I don't know where they go with that one. Is Matthew Robertson ready? Will he ever be ready to make that jump to the next level? Because Mikkola is a guy that's a UFA this year, and it looked pretty good. Rich, this is the comment that I saw earlier that Lavi's system detailed, checked out this Team USA's offensive presentation. Sorry, guys. I got to take a sip of water real quick. Trying to read too fast. Detailed systems. He uses a few set systems, and D-men are always active. The Rangers have very good skating D-men outside of Jacob Trouba. So Which player benefits the most out of Laviolette's style? I'm going to say it's Alexis Lafreniere. I think it's Alexis Lafreniere who's going to benefit the most. Because, again, I brought up the two names, Victor Arvidsson in Nashville, Sean Bates in New York. I'm trying to think of a Carolina guy I could compare him to. Maybe JVR when he was in Philly, but I'm trying to think if there's another guy that matched that in Philly. I'd have to stare at that roster for those two. But I think it's Alexis Lafreniere. I think he's the guy that ends up taking the next step because of the coach's input. So we'll see about that. Yeah, I was told it's Gallant, like that's the way he pronounces it, but he's also like the Office Space. Samir Nana, not going to be working here anymore, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, we do need more likes, and more comments. And we actually just passed 10,000 subscribers. I got to put up a short on that one to say thank you to everybody for that. And also we're on YouTube, but we're also obviously Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Rumble. We just started up that one. Anywhere you find everything, it's all listed in the ticker below. And you can also check out our link tree, which is in the link below with that. Yeah, Trocheck, I think is gonna benefit as well. I mean, hell, remember when he was at the Islanders? He had Dave Scatchard. He made him look pretty good. Is Laviolette? Oh, damn it! I screwed it up again. Is Laviolette capable of making the mid-game adjustments that Gallant was either incapable or unwilling to make? He makes the mid-game adjustments. If that's what I always remember, I think I remember that about him. He would change mid-game if they had to. Which, again, it's the reason why Lindy Ruff's got a job. Do we have a counter, by the way, on how many mispronunciations do we have? Am I over 10 already? I was so confident that I was going to be under 10. Oh, man. But Rich is saying here you go. Here you go, Marc. Gallant. With Gallant, the team had free reins to do what they wanted, hence East-West plays. And yeah, and I still think there's going to be plenty East-West. I think it's just going to be a lot more North-South. And that's why, yes, they needed structure. Because as soon as Lindy Ruff made changes, everybody, go watch the condensed game. The 3-minute recap of Game 4 of the Rangers Devils. They show a shot on goal in the first period of Game 4, just on the power play. They're just talking about the power play for a minute. They don't show a single moment of the Rangers offense the rest of the game. That was up 2-1 at home with a chance to completely put your foot on the other team's throat. So, yeah. And Jimmy's saying, we'll see. Hopefully, yeah. Willie's saying, I think Knobloch would have been best, so I'll die on that pile and that of ash that'll be used to be a bridge. I think Knobloch would have been a good choice, but the thing is, if this team still wants to win a Stanley Cup, you do not win a Stanley Cup with a rookie coach. It just doesn't happen. Let me see. Teams that have won with a rookie coach. Bob Brenly with the Diamondbacks in 2001. George Seifert with the 49ers in 89. And I think that team, that 89 team, if I recall, won the Super Bowl the year before when Bill Walsh retired. And he was the assistant coach anyway. So he basically just slid over. I mean, he was already on the team. You're not looking. I mean, that would be like if Colin Campbell won the Stanley Cup in 1995. It wasn't going to happen. Instead, he was an 8-seeded coach who was able to get a first-round upset and then get swept in the second round. Forgot who the coach of the Flyers was back then. In 95. I forgot that. I'll have to look that up. Okay. David's saying if you buy out Trouba, you can't buy out Trouba. I don't think it's going to help us. By the way, everybody, I'm sorry. Whenever I use the term "us," I've been trying to work that out in my vernacular for a long time. So yeah, I don't think you could buy out Trouba. If you buy out Trouba, I'm going to try to be as fast as possible for everybody right here. Buying out Trouba. And I think one reason why everybody was kind of waiting on naming Laviolette the coach is because I still think they wanted Quenneville. I think they wanted Quenneville, hell or high water, and they were going to figure out a way to do it. The problem is, I don't know if Joe Quenneville coaches ever again. I do not know. All right, if you buy out the Trouba contract under cap friendly, let me bring this up for everybody right here. The savings, yeah, you do save $5 million, and 5 million, 5.7 this year, almost 5.8, 3.8 the next year, 3.8 the next year, but then you're losing 2 on the cap. I just don't see them buying out Trouba. Especially you don't it's not often when you buy out your captain. I know what everybody's saying, and Dave, you're not wrong, actually. That looks better than what I thought. I I think Tarasenko is going to take a step down. I don't think Tarasenko is the same player he used to be, and he's far from the 87-point player he was last season. I'm happy with the way we're playing. Down 2 games, done when they lost the last 2 games prior. How about this, Willie? They had, he said that after Game 5 when they were outshot 20-2, down 3-0. If you would have said it was the first period of that game, I would have been like, oh, okay. 20-2. Down 3-0. Your team should have shown desperation. Instead, the Devils just took them right out. Laviolette, for me, has to do 4 things if he wants to be a successful hire right here. Give the kids a fair shot, hold the vets accountable, implement a system, improve 5-on-5. And that's a great point, too, because, you know what, I'm not going to waste everybody's time on that right now. I'd have to look at Nashville's 5-on-5 time on that. That would be a hoot if Pittsburgh fired Sullivan later today. You know what? Yeah, why not? And then Chris Drury would have to turn to Peter Laviolette and then say, "Oh, you're fired." But I don't think that's happening anyway. Mike Sullivan, they said he was involved in the GM search. GMs do like to bring in their own coaches, but you can't sit on your hands for too long. By the way, there is a chance Big Apple Hockey could be at the NHL draft. We're hoping to hear some good words on that right now. I'm going to be in Nashville anyway. I'm going to be on the Strip that night as well. As of right now, that is my plan because I have a trip planned with a bunch of my friends. This is my actual vacation. I know I've been taking some other time off lately from my work, and that was let's see, it's going to be Nashville, then St. Louis for a Cardinals game, and then Kansas City for a Royals game. So I think it's time some of the Rangers legends from 1994 start getting their chances as assistant coaches. Brian Leetch never had a mental error on the ice. He'd be a fine candidate. I don't think Brian Leetch has any urge to coach. Jeff Bukaboom, if you remember, was the assistant coach in 2015. And I was shocked when they moved on from him as fast as they did. For Lindy Ruff, as a matter of fact, who, all due respect to Lindy Ruff, he was a terrible, terrible assistant coach for the Rangers. I still don't know what the hell him and AV were thinking in Game 2 versus Ottawa in 2017 when Brady Shea has 2 goals. Looks like he's all over the ice. Him and Brendan Smith are dominating every single shift that they had. And yes, I actually said that out loud. And then, yeah, you know what? 7 minutes remaining. We're just going to bench them the entire game. We'll ride Stahl, Girardi, McDonough, and I think it was Holden was the 4th guy. And Stahl in 2.5 minutes remaining, they were down. Ottawa was down 2 goals. Of course, they were going to tie it because you just ran out 4 defensemen the entire time. It's always great to look at everything in hindsight. But I do think some people, if they have interest in coaching, yeah, by all means. But then you have to start at the low levels and go up. A perfect example that whenever the Marc Messier talk comes out, that everybody wants to make Marc Messier the head coach. Patrick Ewing started as an assistant, I believe, with the Orlando Magic. Worked on that for years. Kept working his way up the NBA ladder. The Knicks never hired him for a job, so he went to Georgetown. And unfortunately, it didn't work out with him in Georgetown. Sometimes great players are just great players. They're not great coaches. John D. Lee, always great to see you. And yes, better than Gallant. And yes, I have to raise my eyebrows whenever I say his name. Gallant. When you say it like that, Gallant just rolls right off. But, And by the way, part of that has to do also, Mark, is I'm used to saying Gallant ever since I was playing with the Detroit Red Wings in NHL 93. I believe that was the first year for the one-timer, too. Jay Lewis is saying, do the Rangers have the roster for Laviolette's style of team? Laviolette never had a finesse-heavy team before. Laviolette has always teams with an edge. Will the roster... Garnet Hathaway would actually Hathaway to the Rangers? ? Garnet Hathaway would be a great addition for the New York Rangers. Absolutely a great addition. And by the way, Willie, I see the next comment. I got to get to that. And you guys are doing a great job. 44 of you are still watching me right now. I'm hoping to go maybe another, I was going to say an hour in total, but I'll go another 15 minutes. I want to get to as many comments as I can. Do they have that roster for him? I think all of his teams had a good mix of grit and skill. Like, I never thought he devalued skill. I never thought that. But, hey, look, if Artemi Panarin could come out and pull an Alex Rodriguez, a guy that never performed in the playoffs, and then suddenly, boom, one good playoff run. You could have argued A-Rod for World Series MVP in 2009. Instead, it went to Hideki Matsui. But it's something that you just need one good run, and then people don't remember you as a loser anymore. All right, but I think this guy coaches hockey. I think he just coaches hockey and coaches his style. I think his style is a mix of grit and speed. Like, his Islanders teams certainly were a lot more like skill oriented, especially the beginning, the first year when they were at their best. They were a little more skill oriented, and then he had the Pekka line and the Scatcherd line, which were a little bit more grinded out. Former neighbor of mine, Claude Point, was on those teams. Willie's saying that Athletic post from that Vancouver fans ran away with Laffy for Garland straight up was pure drunk people talk. I had to put the word pure in there because I got to agree with you. Like, seriously, people, what are you doing? Hockey media. Oh, hey, Lafreniere's former agent is assistant general manager right there. Yeah, that doesn't mean they're going to get him. I mean, it makes perfect sense to target him. Why not? And for Connor Garland, you're upping. Look, I'd love Connor Garland on the team, but on the other hand, I mean, not for Alexei Lafreniere, please. I'm doing an article right now about, this is the third time I'm mentioning this, because I just started the article about players that teams gave up on. I have one where they were fortunate and robbed the team that they were giving up on that player on. I had one where the player is already flourishing and it happened just now or just recently. Another one where the jury, and I think two more where the jury is still out. Hopefully it'll be a good article. No, and Pete, this isn't Ken Jernander. That is the great, the one and only Mike Eruzione. I still haven't taken the price tag off it because I'm kind of too nervous to do that. Wicked is saying, to me, what's most shocking is that somehow 40% of the audience thinks that Mark won't mispronounce his name at least 10 times. The problem is I say it too fast. And I think I always used to say, this one doesn't count. So if somebody's on the counter, don't count this one. I think I used to call him Laviolette. I think that's what I used to call him when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was 22. Probably just a drunk. Messier will never coach at this stage. He should have been coaching elsewhere. Messier should have been a coach anywhere, but he's also Marc Messier. That's also the other problem. You're not going to give Wayne Gretzky an assistant coaching job. And how'd that go with the Coyotes? He had to learn a little bit. Although, by the way, that story about Keith Yandel and him on a 2-on-1, fantastic. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Tommy is saying, by the way, Hicksville represent. I will always say that whenever I see your name on here. How much of an upgrade is he over Gallant or Gallant? And again, the eyebrows went up again. I don't really think it's a big difference. Yeah, he's won, but it's been a while. I'm not blown away or impressed by the hire. And I think that's where I think we all are. The better comparison is Paul Maurice. And the difference is with Laviolette is that he has 2 Eastern Conference championships and a Western Conference championship to his record. That's not many coaches have that at all. Mike Babcock has got 3 in the West. 1 with Anaheim, 2 with Detroit. Then you have obviously 1-1 Vigneault, 1-1 with Bruce Cassidy. It's difficult. First off, it's difficult to win in any pro sports league, but we'll see about that. Over to you, Pete. Pete is saying that if Drury befriends Isaiah Thomas, he'll have a job for life. Yeah. But no, he's no lackey for Sather or for Dolan either. Next task for Drury: fire the entire medical training staff for giving Patrick Kane a passing grade on his physical examination. I think I was hearing rumors about that in March. I heard rumors that Patrick Kane was going to stay out. Every bit about that trade, I don't hate, and I understand why you're reacting like this on this comment, Matador. I was hearing some information that Kane was possibly going to opt for hip surgery and go nowhere. Instead, he goes to the Rangers for basically a song. Either the Rangers succeeded with him and they would give up a first-round pick, or they gave up a second round. I think it's a second and a fourth. That was it. But in the end, he did have 12 points in 15 games. It was good. It wasn't terrible, but it's just, and the sad part is he looked good at times, but again, he's got to get his hip smooth. You're right about this. Like, I think everybody knew what they were in for with Patrick Kane. 45 of you are watching right now. Everybody, thanks very much. And I gotta go do the YouTube thing. Sorry about it, everybody. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because if we don't, then we don't get into the algorithm. Still fighting that one, trying to get that one on there. I got to get back to that comment. Okay. Tommy's saying, thank God they didn't hire Messier or Hines. It's not a terrible hire, but it isn't going to shock anyone. Yeah. And also, you have to have a coach that's got I said this before about David Quinn. When you got players to develop, people think it's just players. You have to develop a coach too. Give me the veteran that's seen it all, especially when it's a coach. All right, Poppin sucks. True story. Back in 04-05, my boss at brokerage firm was next door neighbors with Lavi, and he was kind enough to go fishing with a whole bunch of us hockey fans. Yeah, I mean, hockey guys are great guys. I mean, I even heard stories that Milbury was a good guy. I love the story about Brian McCabe just driving home when he was with the Islanders and saw a couple kids playing street hockey. And he goes, oh, hey, guys, I'll be right back. And just drives on back, drops a bunch of sticks that he had available for them. Kane, what do you think? Willie's saying, what do you think? Kane takes $3 million plus bonuses, which could be backloaded to next year's cap, or the show me contract deal opens the season on a long-term injury reserve, we're in no rush for a return. I think it's an interesting situation with Patrick Kane, and I'm kind of saying that a little bit as my voice is kind of going down with this, because I think Patrick Kane, if he wants to stay, yeah, you're gonna have to take a big pay cut, and I would say $3 million, if that's prorated, he might not want to sign day one. And obviously, everybody said the Buffalo Sabres, everybody said the Pittsburgh Penguins, everybody said a couple other teams, even him going back to the Blackhawks. That's a long recovery time. I think Backstrom took about 4 or 5 months on that. So, hopefully a speedy return. Patrick Kane, one of the greatest American-born players ever, and hopefully, I would have to say I would sign him. Me personally, it's a 3-year deal, no bonuses. Or yeah, I would go with the bonuses. So bonuses that could be backloaded to next year's cap. I'd rather get Tom. I guess was that Tom Wilson? Yeah. I saw those rumors going around. Well, here's a great question. Here's another guy that could benefit from that. Everybody projects Will Cooley to be a pretty good player. Why not see how he's going to be under Laviolette? 50% of you. I'm going to close the poll right now, but I love this poll of how many times will I mispronounce Laviolette's name today. 1 to 3 times, only 17%, 4 to 10, 32, and 10 to infinity. Oh, what a layup. I got to show that to Anthony and Filk right now. Oh, wait, I texted that to the wrong person. All right, I'm texting right now, so I should probably stop doing that and get right back to what I was doing. So, all right. Yeah, there were rumors of Tom Wilson. Yeah, but I don't know how much Tom Wilson is going to be as effective. He's been battling injuries the last couple of years, too. I think Kane, every time I see Barbashev tearing it up for the Vegas Golden Knights, it's funny you bring that up because that's going to be a bar talk topic tomorrow. I had to impersonate being an Islander fan while sitting next to his wife at the Coliseum. I can't remember exactly which game it was, but it was a game where Kovalev scored. That could be the last the one you just described, the last Islander Ranger game in 2004, maybe. Could have been that one. Because I remember Kovalev had the game tying goal, and I think they tied them in that game. Rangers, a state of survival. Rangers got to stop hiring former Islanders players and staff. Find your own people. Well, technically speaking, you could say the Islanders hired a former Ranger in order to do that. But no, I know what you mean. By the way, just go back to this on Pop and Sucks. I have no problem going to a game and being completely neutral. When there's no skin in the game for me, I am drinking heavily and just trying to hope that it's a good game. If sort of like the Dallas game I went to a couple weeks ago, if you want to see Marc on the road, I went to game 3 of the Western Conference Finals, and there was first off, the game itself, total dreck. It was almost a microcosm of the series at that point. It was 3-0 in the first period, and Jamie Benn. What was Jamie Benn thinking? I have no idea on that, but the experience of going there was great. Meeting Taylor from Two Girls, One Stanley Cup. And I look forward to wherever the next one's going to be. I don't know where it's going to be. I was kind of hoping outside chance. It was a very outside chance I could get to Florida for the Stanley Cup Finals, but that's not happening. And I would say, I don't know, maybe Boston, maybe Philadelphia next time. Either way, those two cities, I'm seeing a neutral game. I'm not going to that game in my Ranger jersey. I played junior hockey in Bucks County. I don't need to get on that. All right, so we're at 4. That was at 2:12. Right now we're at 2:48. I had half an hour, so it might be even worse. Be right. All right, he's a good choice. Better than most. Sullivan would have been the best answer. Well, we're saying Kane will not be 100% for even a while past surgery. No sense in watching him take laps anymore when we already have Brett doing that. Yep. Kane should be signed 1 year cheap, but on a long-term injury reserve for the postseason. And it's in a late game or OT, I jumped in jubilation because I was halfway through my celly. I had to turn into a piston. That's so awesome. Igor's making $7 million with incentives on the following season. All right. Reload the kid line with Cooley and Ottman. I like that option. If they could at least have a good showing in the preseason, because Cooley's got to show something. Top 8 team, Vegas would obliterate this team. Yep. Lou, I agree with you right now. Vegas would definitely obliterate this team because they got Aiden Hill just making saves, and he's making the saves, but he's seeing all the pucks. That's the thing. They would definitely do that. But again, Vegas would crush them. And what does that have to do with it? It has to do with coaching. Coaching is the big thing. And when people say managers don't make a difference in baseball, coaches don't make a difference in football, coaches don't make a difference in basketball, absolutely not. You can't win without a good coach. You can win like once. That's about it. Tyrone Lue, what the hell did he do? Owns the Chief. I don't know what that's from. Willie, I don't know what that's from, and I would love to know. All right. Trocheck should center the third line. Filipino has more speed and skill. Well, hopefully he can take a jump. That's something to look for too. Look for Filipino to hopefully take a jump. And we need more of a shutdown-oriented third-line center. And by the way, Trocheck can do that. Pavel Datsyuk is my shootout lifeline. Yeah, okay. I would take Pavel Datsyuk is a good one. Ilya Kovalchuk is another one. No, Pete, you wouldn't say TJ Oshie? I think that's a great top 10. I got to make that one. What's your with your life on the line? Who are you doing a shootout for? There's a couple of the videos I'm going to have on here during the summer. Funny hockey commercials. There's a bunch of them that I got to throw on there. 43 of you still watching right now. Everybody, thank you very much. I got 26 likes down in the comments. You guys have been great. Keep the comments coming. I'll work on 315 or maybe 310. I got to get back to the article on the Legend of Zelda calls, and also I have a wake to go to tonight, unfortunately. A friend of mine had a passing in his family. But that's a good one. That's a real good one. I got to get those on the line because after all, we're about to embark on 2 months of nothing but just talking about hockey. So, Goudreau must be moved this offseason. No, Willie, I think it's not a must, but I think it's definitely going to be hard. You're talking about a guy that's making $3.6 million, very limited, no trade. They gave him all those years. As soon as that happened, Filk and I were pumped when they got Barclay Goudreau, but then, and then Trocheck, basically the same contract. You're basically gonna have to do the same thing that you'd have to do with Barclay Goudreau by trading him quickly. That you're gonna have to do with Vinny Trocheck in year 4 or 5. Will Keandre Miller return to the player he was prior to the spitting incident? I hope so. And one thing that I want to say about Keandre Miller and that spitting incident, I love that he only pointed one finger, and that was the thumb. I think I was waiting to hear the story blow up, and not only was it a non-issue, he acknowledged he was wrong on that, and then that was it. David, I'm pretty sure there was 40 points for Kako. Oof. All right, then at least I pushed. I forgot about the Kako bet. Spend the time and money on that show. That was last year. I want to say it was game 1. I was doing the post-game show. Players need to develop. Look at Kreider. Look at Marty Necas. Yes, look at both of them. Got to keep Laffy and Kako. Pete, thanks. Montreal took out Vegas in 6. Florida did win the President's Trophy last year. Yes, they did. And they almost lost in the first round and didn't win a game in the second round. So there you go. Oh, Patrick, I got to disagree with you. Tkachuk, most overrated player of the year. No, Matthew Tkachuk over 100 points back to back with 2 different teams. I think Filk said the last guy that did that was Jimmy Carson. That was 1988 when he was traded for Wayne Gretzky. And the other thing in that is right now I got Tkachuk as an MVP finalist. If not for Connor McDavid, I would put him as the MVP. All right. All right. And then yeah, I'm sure Carolina would disagree. The difference between the Panthers and the Canadiens is the Canadiens had no right to be in the playoffs. Panthers should be there, but they got here's the other thing. The Panthers made all the right adjustments. And yeah, 2 overtime wins. But Bruins had leads, 2 different leads in the third period of game 6. They could not fit and a lead in about a minute and a half remaining in game 7. They could not finish off the Panthers. And they always say the 4th game is the hardest to win. It's not just hyperbole. It's what it is. I already love this comment, Matador. That's a great one. Dude at 109 points. Tkachuk is minimum top 15 player in the league. All right. Well, if I were the Rangers, I'd trade the house for Brady. He's even better than his brother. Good luck trading the house for Brady, since they just sold the Senators, and it looks. I think they won him an auction. Is that official? I looked up the story and just thought, all right, well, hopefully they could still integrate both Snoop Dogg and Ryan Reynolds in some way into that franchise. In NHL 22, I have Laffy and Kako on the first line with Mika and 100 points per season. Yeah, I've had over 114 goals with Mark Williams in NHL. I would love to see that happen. And again, nobody's denying the amount of talent. I do wonder who controls the puck on that. Because if it's Kako, who's a guy that likes to control the puck, Laffy, a guy that plays a lot away from the puck, and then you have Mika that controls the puck a little bit. But it's funny getting into these comments about get rid of Kako, get rid of Lafreniere. I go on NHL Twitter and Rangers Twitter especially. All I hear is about how they gave up on Buchnevich. Still, the bigger question is whether Miller gets an offer sheet. No, he won't. He's got no arbitration powers, and I don't think anybody's dumb enough to offer sheet after the Montreal fiasco with Carolina. But by all means, go ahead. The Rangers will make space. They'll keep Keandre Miller, or they'll just recoup the assets. Brendan Moore says his favorite coach was Lavi. Said if you played well, you logged more minutes, and he didn't play favorites. Good. With the UFA market being underwhelming, we might see more offer sheets. We could, but I don't think that's going to happen. I understand, Pete. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be tough to get in there. Until we start to get skates, I believe line 1, right wing is Laffy's spot, and he will excel. If that's the case, then you better earn it. Because here's the other thing. Lafreniere disappeared last year, especially towards the end of the playoffs. Like, he was just gone. And just, this is a year, I hope, we all hope this would definitely happen. Alexei Lafreniere looks in the mirror and says, I got to be better. Pardon me for 1 second. Alexa, stop listening. Anyway. And Mike, thank you very much again. I don't see it. I think I still have my old MySpace profile on there. I got to see if I can find it. Glad I voted 10 to infinity. All right, so we were at 6 at about 226. Oh boy, guys, we're half an hour later. I'm way out of this. Facebook user Omar, earlier you said that Toronto was third most attractive job. Newsflash, they have a coach. Marc messed up. Oh no, Marc messed up. All right, I'll do that for myself. Wait, Keefe is still there? Sheldon Keefe is still there? Oh, yeah, okay. I actually still can't believe he wasn't fired. I thought they let go of him and the other one. If you can't tell everybody, I am not a fan of Kyle Dubas. I just can't help but say, what have you done? All right, and this team was so much better when Ben Harper was in the lineup on defense. The only guy to stand up for the Rangers. Ben Harper is a great under the radar signing for the New York Rangers. Winners will get a hand signed Marc headshot. Oh boy, and I still have copies of my old headshot. Yeah. It's okay to be a Rangers fan. Nobody's perfect. Cordy, a bit of a retread with the hire, but my attention is on the draft. What do the Rangers go get? My hope is Riley Hiked or Callum Ritchie or Quentin Musty, either as a prospect or a trade piece. I actually have not done my research yet on where they're going to be drafting in the mock draft on that. We are going to be at the NHL draft. But, whoa, sorry. Wait. Let me correct that. I'm going to be in Nashville during the NHL draft. There's a possibility we might be at the NHL draft, so stay tuned on that one. That question, I would direct it to Filk if I can. We're going to be doing a lot more draft talk when it comes after the next show. So actually, probably in the next show, we might be doing a lot more draft talk. So, all right. Nessa saying, hi, I'm not the biggest fan of this choice, but it is what it is at this point. I hope you won't make the same mistakes Gallant did. And you know what? I don't think he will. And because he can't. That must be why the interview process maybe took so long to be like, what is your plan for this team? They have to make sure that they're doing that. Mets in Kansas City, August 1st. I was thinking about going. I just don't want a 4-hour drive to see the Mets lose. You know, sometimes you just go for the experience. Unfortunately, by the way, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Met losses this year. I have not liked what I've seen from this team. I still remember Ayler as a loser. Hey, great. MJ Edits is saying, hey, great to see you guys. How you been? Just a question. What is Peter going to do with the young guys? Example, Kako, Lafrey, and Ottman. I think he's playing them. I think he's going to have that. I think Ottman's on this team next year. I don't see many like the. Let me just. I think you guys have seen the disgust in my face just now, just thinking about it. I am tired of hearing Pierre-Luc Dubois rumors. Like, how are they getting him? How are they getting PLD? And they're going to sign him to a $9 million deal? You're out of your mind. Because that's what he wants. He wants $9 million. Oh, he can negotiate. What, to 8? He's never had more than 63 points in the season. Wilbur's saying, Loff, Mika, Kako. I actually don't think they're going to be both on the same line, but like I'll point out where I think a better spot for him could be in a minute. Loff, Mika, Kako, Bread, Filipino, and Brendan Ottman. I like that line. That's a good line, I think. Kreids, Trocheck, that's where I put Kako. First line, I don't know who to put with Loff and Mika. And then the fourth, I would still have Goudreau, VZ, and if you lose Tyler Mott, you got Garner Hathaway. There you go. That would be great. I'm okay with Tyler Mott, though. I like Tyler Mott and what he brings. I hope the center auto. Okay, yeah. Stenberg. Okay, these are all the draft prospects. Thanks, Dominic. Again, like I said, I got to do my research on it next week. I'm more of the host when it comes to draft stuff because Filk knows all the prospects. And we probably will have a episode with Steven coming up. Wilbur, unless Drury skates it up a bit, yeah, maybe. I don't know if he's going to want to jump ahead in this draft a little bit. NYR Blends 36 is saying, is it reasonable thought to see Panarin traded to bring more of a balance? I feel like Panarin hasn't really meshed well with anyone since Strome left. Panarin had almost 100 points again. You got to replace 100 points if you trade Panarin. I think that the thing about Panarin is we're focused on his regular season, his postseason numbers, which aren't great. They're not great by any means. But his regular season numbers, he's done very well. So, and as far as Panarin goes, you know what? You're paying $11.5 million. You play with who we tell you to. Don't give me Ryan Strome left. Oh, great. Rangers weren't winning anything with Ryan Strome. You know what the Rangers were getting with Ryan Strome? Missed empty nets. I got to stop yelling. My roommate's 3-year-old girl is sick. Hopefully she gets to sleep. All right. David said, and giving Mark the benefit of the doubt. Apparently, my trust was misplaced. Well, it could be. Well, I mean, again, that's a great thing about conversations, David. I understand what you're saying with that. As I hit my spit screen, this thing right here. Knock on that. 3:05 right now. We're going to go for another 10 more minutes. Trying to get to all these comments as best you can, guys. We could just call him Turkey because he turned out to be one. Don't know which one that was. Doug W. Hey, welcome to the show. I haven't seen you. I have no problem with this hire. He knows the division. He's a defensive-minded coach. He also, by the way, he does get offense out of defense. There are good transitions. And you know what? We're going to have a few more minutes here, guys, because I got a guest coming on right now that everybody's going to want to see. So it looks like I may never touch Breath of the Wild. Sorry, I said Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom ever again. So we got 3060 right now watching. And make sure you're hitting that like button and you subscribed if you haven't. But yeah, and he knows the media market. He's a former Ranger. These are all good things. So Brett isn't going anywhere, but the other thing about it is Brett isn't going anywhere. But never mind Brett not going anywhere. I just don't see how he's. I don't see people wanted to say, oh, let's move Artemi Panarin, but for what? I mean, there isn't Matt Tkachuk's not walking through that door. Now, granted, it took a tremendous leap of faith to trade Jonathan Huberdeau over to Calgary and get back Matt Tkachuk and then sign him and then hope that was going to be the difference. And they gave him Mackenzie Weegar too. That's a good player too. But Huberdeau ends up going in the tank. 45, I think 55 point differential on this season. So, but are you ready to come in? Oh, hold on. I got you. Whenever you're ready.
Well, you were on a roll there for a second, and I didn't want to interrupt you.
I know.
I mean, you actually called Jonathan Huberdeau by the right name, so that's a good thing. Yeah. So, how is everybody feeling right now?
You know, the best way to say it, and Filk, I keep going back to these 2 points, and I have to actually go with this because these are some of the arguments. Oh, I want new blood. I don't want a retread. Okay, well, the retread that you got he took 2 teams to the Stanley Cup Finals last decade and a 3rd team 5 years before that. Oh, I don't want a retread. What do retreads do? Well, Paul Maurice is in the Stanley Cup Finals.
And he's a retread.
He's another he's the retread of all retreads.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, he's been around the block and a half. I mean, he's been coaching for the better part of 25 years. Actually, even more because he was, I think, the last Hartford Whalers coach. So
you're correct.
Yeah. So we're looking at a coach that has actually been around for one of the teams that no longer exists from the 90s. We're not even talking about how the Atlanta Thrashers don't exist anymore. We're talking about the Hartford Whalers. So Maurice is that much of a retread. Yes, he started coaching in 96, 97, which was his first year, and that was with the Hartford Whalers. He went in 70 games. He won 29, 33, and 8. And he finished fourth in their division. So I can't believe. Yeah, I know. I could see the people are trolling you from the start. I mean,
well, I made sure I got around on that.
Yeah, that is good song. I get around by the Beach Boys for NHL coaches. Yeah, I do agree with that. But all right. So I go back to this, and two things I've always said about this. You're not going to bring in a rookie head coach in a win-now situation. And Chris Drury also was not going to hire a rookie head coach in a situation in which his job is pretty much on the line. So, I definitely did not see them going with anyone other than Laviolette unless Mike Sullivan became available or Joel Quenneville. The other guy would have said that maybe could have done the job would have been Andrew Brunette because of the success he had in Florida, albeit very short, small sample size. I do like what Brunette did in Florida. I think he's going to be good for Nashville. I think that he'll be able to get them I think he'll get them to play more of an offensive game, but they weren't going with Carberry or Jay Leach. And these guys haven't won anything. What has Jay Leach won? What has Spencer Carberry won? Chris Knoblauch, he won an OHL championship in, 2016, I think? It was the year after McDavid. They didn't even win with McDavid. That team had McDavid, Dylan Strome, Alex DeBrincat, both Radish brothers, and Mason Marchment, and they still lost. They still lost in the championship series. So, I mean, I don't know what people wanted with a fresh face, but they weren't going to get that. And it just wasn't going to happen now.
Now, quick question. Let's go back a year on this. Let's say this happens last year. Is it a no-brainer that they just go to Bruce Cassidy, or do they sit, or does everybody look at him and go, he's a retread too? Or Pete DeBoer? And then what happens? You end up having one coach take his team to the conference finals, one coach take his team to the Stanley Cup finals, and right now they could win it tonight. I think I'm still taking that coach.
Bruce Cassidy would have been a great hire. Would have been a great hire. He's been a good coach for a while. He really proved that in Boston. I mean, that was a roster that was pretty flawed, and he got them pretty far. So good on Bruce Cassidy. If Bruce Cassidy wins, I'd be happy for Bruce Cassidy because I hate how they did him dirty in Boston, and to see him go from being fired to winning the Stanley Cup in the next season and having everybody to look at that and be like, oh God, what did we do? That would be fun.
And Filk, they also did it when they had the best regular season of all time and lost in the first round.
Well, I mean, he was fired before that, but yeah, I mean,
the other team, like he's going on to win the Stanley Cup. His former team, you're like, oh, they were the ones you could just write in pen and it was stolen in the finals.
And I mean, kudos to Jim Montgomery on a great regular season. It just not a lot of people are going to remember that because you didn't win it all. And that's what that's going to come down to. And that sucks for Jim Montgomery, who was also another real feel-good story to see him come back from his issues and his demons, with the substance abuse and have such a great, great year and get what he got out of that roster. So,
hey, Phil, by the way, just before we get too far, one of the users, QWERTY, asked this question, and I'm not the draft expert that you are. I actually mentioned how you would probably know more about this, but he was saying that a bit of a retread with the hire, but my attention is on the draft. Who do the Rangers get? Hope is Riley Height. Is that the way you pronounce his name?
Yeah,
Callum Ritchie or Quentin Musty.
I see a lot of mocks that they have Musty going to the Rangers, but I don't understand why they would get another guy that's sort of like Brennan Othmann and Quentin Musty. Quentin Musty is he plays like Othmann, but he's a bigger guy. He's also somebody who's been knocked for his skating, a left winger, goal scorer. I would say that you can't. I don't know how you can go with that. I mean, Caleb Ritchie would be nice and Riley Hyde would be nice, but again, these are centers as well. So are they going to play wing? I mean, for me, I would love to see like Brandon Yeager fall, or if I don't think this is happening. And again, this is just me dreaming, but Matt Vejmechkov falling, and then the Rangers making a big move to get up and sweep him up. I mean, it kind of would remind me of how they somehow got a hold of Alexei Sharapanov in 2007. And we know how that ended, but I mean, it was another guy that was supposed to go number 2 or number 3 in his draft year and was talked about for a long time before his draft came up, and then just ended up being a superstar prospect that fell to the Rangers. So, yeah, I don't – what are you doing?
I'm sorry. I was experimenting with something for a second.
You're like distracting me there. I'm like, what is he doing?
I was trying to do it really quick and get it over with, but because I haven't been able to do it.
You're trying to get that background. Yeah, I know. My background isn't exactly the best. But, yeah. So I would like Height or Ritchie. I think they would both be good prospects. And, yeah, I mean, Jay Lewis is right here. You draft a best player available, not for need, but what are you going to do with yet another left winger? There's already a logjam. There's already some reports that they might be interested in moving Alexis Lafreniere because they can't get him the time with the 2 guys in front of him that are immovable in Panarin and Kreider. Why are you drafting another left winger? For me, trade down at that point and get more capital, or make a big move and go up for a guy that you really want.
I do gotta agree with you on that. I think when that draft happened, and yes, a lot of us were freaking out about, hey, the Rangers got the number 1 draft pick, and I wish I had the video of my reaction on that one. But the thing about it was, I couldn't help but look at that and just think, you got left wing, left wing, left wing. And there were reports that they were going to try and move him to center. And there were other ideas that they had. Oh, we could just move to the right wing. He's clearly comfortable as a left wing. This is what we've established in the AHL. You're paying Panarin 11.5. You can move. He's got to stay on the left wing. Kreider's most effective on the left wing, even though, like I said before, you can knock Kreider down to the 3rd line, and I think he'd still be an effective player with Vinny Trocheck, probably if they moved up Hedl or something like that. That being said, the Rangers could have moved back, recouped some extra draft picks, and then ended up like getting somebody else, maybe a Lucas Raymond, maybe I'm trying to think of who else was in that draft that year. I mean, I don't want to say Jamie Drysdale. That was the year before, right?
No, Jamie Drysdale was
the Lafreniere draft.
Yeah, he was the 2020 draft.
Oh, by the way, Anaheim, we get it. The pick was in. Did you have to have every single season ticket holder? Let us know. So, but yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, drop back. You can drop back to 2, get Quentin Byfield, or even drop to 3. I'm just spitballing it. But everybody, this is the reason why I'm still high on this, Filk. If you're telling me Central Scouting and every scout had Lafreniere at number 1 and it wasn't close, you draft Alexis Lafreniere. Just what you do.
You have to. You have to. I mean, that's the one case in which you have to. But if you're at 23, what's the difference between taking a player that might be the better player at left wing and taking a slightly lesser player at a position in which you need?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. Yeah, I mean, Daniil would be a good right winger at that range. Sure. I definitely agree with you there, but I don't know which way they're going to go. Maybe Dalibor Dvorsky falls. Someone could always fall. Someone always in these drafts falls farther than you would think. Like, I don't think anyone expected Joe Veleno to be there at that last pick in which the Rangers took in 2018 when they took Nils Lundqvist. So, yeah.
By the way, I can't actually. So I'm still surprised that Keefe wasn't let go by Toronto as well. I thought he did. I had a brain fart earlier.
Sorry, I just have to adjust something here.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Kravtsov over Farabee. I mean, that's a bad one. I think Philadelphia also just did a better job in identifying their player. Listen, I was at that draft 2018. I was there in Dallas. I actually interviewed Sam Cosentino in person, and Sam Cosentino told me that they had basically no idea of where to put Kravtsov in the mocks because Kravtsov had been basically touted as anywhere from somewhere within the bottom part of the top 10 to the end of the first round because the fact that he played over 3 different leagues in one season and the KHL playoffs was really what boosted his stock. But it ended up being a complete wild card, and the Rangers took a swing on a wild card that they thought that they were, again, another smartest person in the room type move from Gordy Clark instead of going with a guy with a more sure ceiling. And that's another thing. Like, you had 3 first-round picks. That was the first of those 3 first-round picks. That was the pick in which they couldn't afford to take that swing on. If they took that swing on Kravtsov with that last pick that they took Lundqvist with, I don't think anybody would have really cared. But the fact that he was a top 10 pick is what pisses a lot of Ranger fans off.
And it's amazing when you really think about it. All 3 players they took were risks. All of them.
Yeah. And
Keandre Miller was just learning how to play defense. Everybody forgets about that. Yeah. Kravtsov, I had conversations with Brian McCabe at a friend's barbecue out here in Long Island. And he was saying, well, they were thinking about taking Kravtsov at like 14 or 15 when Florida had it. And they were surprised the Rangers jumped up to go get him. Not jumped up, but I mean, they took him. But it's just, I know it's a crapshoot, but sometimes guys fall in love with players because they go, this guy can do this.
Or this player reminds him of this player. And that's really, I think, what happened. I think Gordy Clark saw Traktor Chelyabinsk and then looked at another player that came out of there that plays for the Washington Capitals named Evgeny Kuznetsov. And that's what happened. And that's why he got that.
And I mean,
this is really the case. This is the problem, is that this scouting staff, when it comes to drafting the players, they act like they know something that nobody else knows. And that's the one thing I've noticed. Lias Andersson, they thought they were onto something with that pick. And they were so happy about that pick. Like, huh? Like, I don't know how you were that happy about that pick when you obviously missed on Elias Pettersson with Vancouver jumping you. To me, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. That was one of those everybody first guessed. And look, that was around the time when I started actually really paying attention to the NHL draft. Like really paying attention to be like, and every scout on the board went, wow, that's a reach. So it's when there's 100% of people going, oh, what were you guys doing? That says something. And but again, like Jay Lewis is saying, Nils Lundqvist was a waste of a pick. Could have traded down, especially gotten more depth. And since they never really gave him a chance, same with Zach Jones for a 3rd round pick for an unknown reason. I think Zach Jones just doesn't have the size to play in the NHL.
You know what? He's been all right at times, but he hasn't been great. Like, this is another one where I think the Ranger hype machine might have hyped him up a little too much.
And that does happen because also, and sometimes, Phil, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say all teams do that. So it's definitely not an uncommon practice.
And in the meantime, let's just get Nils Lundqvist's numbers.
He hasn't been anything great either.
Yeah.
I mean, he showed flashes here and there, but I mean, he's far away from being something really, really good at this level. Like maybe, I think maybe he turns into a guy that can move the puck on like your third pairing, maybe second pairing, and maybe some teams look at him for power play minutes on a second unit because he's got an absolute bomb. But I don't know if he's ever going to be a real top flight puck moving defenseman. So to get that first round pick for him was really good on Chris Drury's part.
That's amazing that Chris Drury is able to do that. And I can't help but also still look at that. If you guys remember following us back when we were All Things Rangers, Filk and I used to do 5-hour shows. In the middle of it, we would stop to watch Nils Lundqvist highlights and call them porn. So it's just now I can't help but Nils Lundqvist came to the Rangers last year, and it was almost like this is what we were hyped up to see. And then he unleashed that shot against Darcy Kemper in the Garden for his only NHL goal, and all of our eyes lit up. We're going, all right, this kid could end up being something, and then it never materialized.
Yeah,
ever.
He just never. I mean, he's still young. He's still got time. I would say there's at least a few years left for him to really prove himself, and then I think the verdict is going to be out at that point. But
you also never know with scouts. I mean, there are people that think Jason Robertson's brother was supposed to be the better one.
Oh yeah, Nick. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even know his name.
Yeah, Nick Robertson, Toronto. But I gotta say this though. I gotta give a shout out to a friend of mine because I actually knew about this on Friday. And I know I showed both you and Anthony this, but
yep.
I actually had an inside scoop on this, and it ended up being correct. And I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back or anything like that, but I'm trying to give credit to the guy who gave me it. It's actually a friend of mine that I've known for a bit that I've played hockey with, who found out about the meeting between Laviolette and Drury and Dolan. So I know he's out there. I know he's paying attention. Thank you for that, because I would have never had that information without that. So thank you again, bud. Appreciate it.
And you also sat on it a little bit and made sure you didn't reveal too much. So that's also a good thing too.
Yeah, I didn't want to reveal anything just because, it's sensitive information. I don't know if I could put somebody at risk or anything like that, but I was given something that I looked at and I took time to go over it and be like, does this sound legitimate? And to me, it did. It sounded legitimate and ended up being legitimate, because a lot of times, like if you're getting something secondhand like that, it's hard to trust people like that. Like you can be told anything by anybody and they could say anything that sounds legit, but where it was coming from, the reason that there was no reason that they had to lie to me about anything like that. And this is not something that this person has done often. So it sounded legit, and smell check passed, and lo and behold, ended up being right.
And of course, welcoming in the third part of Big Apple Hockey, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
Hey, Mark, who's the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Sheldon Keefe.
Yeah, earlier in Mark's stream, he was talking about the most attractive job openings, and he listed the Maple Leafs as the third. And I'm sitting there,
yeah.
I'm like, I so bad wanted to jump through the screen and be like, no, Mark, what are you thinking?
You know what? I did that originally thinking to myself, because I figured Dubas is gone. How do they keep the same coach?
Yeah.
Wow. How many times does a GM just leave and the coach remains? I mean, it's going to happen twice this offseason. That's still ridiculous to me. Anthony, by the way, do me a favor, because I was going through these lines. The Islanders in 2001, Laviolette's first season.
2001, 2002.
Okay. It was Yashin,
Kavasha, and Parrish, I think, right?
Yashin played with Cherkasky and Brad Isbister.
No, I thought Kavasha was with him.
I thought Kavash was on the third line or the second line.
And then it was Pekka, Parrish, and Bates.
Yeah, that was the big line that those three had.
Kavasha did eventually move up with Yashin, but I know for a while Brad Isbister was on that line.
The third line was Scatchard, and I'm missing the two wingers for him.
Was it Claude Lapointe?
Lapointe, Bates, and Bates, Lapointe, Blake, and because Jason Blake was on the fourth liner on that team.
Yeah, when he first came up, yeah.
When he in 2001, 2002, he played in the bottom six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Claude Lapointe saying if that kid figures it all out, he's going to be dangerous, and eventually he did. I'm missing some bit. I remember that Scatchard line was a real good line.
Yeah, Scatchard was real good for the Islanders when he first came, for sure. But I'm trying to think who Scatchard. Lapointe was, I think, on the fourth line. That he was like the fourth line center. Scatchard.
I'm going to the roster right now.
Oh yeah, Aaron Asham. Aaron Asham was on that team, and then he also had a stint in 06, 07. He was on the team too.
And of course, one of my least favorite Islanders defenseman to look at was Adrian Aucoin, because man, he just killed the Rangers back then. Jason Krog was on that roster briefly.
Yeah, but he wasn't a regular.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about who Laviolette had early in his career? Is that what this is about? Yeah.
I could remember that third guy on the fourth line. It was Steve Webb.
Oh, how can you forget Steve Webb? He was a human wrecking ball. The Coliseum with their chance of Steve Webb. Yeah. I met him a couple of times. Once when I was working at Sports Authority in Riverhead, he was in there. And then for Tony and I's fourth wedding anniversary, when I met Mario Lemieux and Ron Duguay and all those guys for Clark Gillies, charitable foundation that night, Steve Webb was one of the guys there. Very nice guy. Very, very nice guy.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about that. I was like, you were like, I'm out right now, and Mario Lemieux is here. I'm like, get the out of here right now.
Yeah, that was.
I literally didn't believe it. I thought it was just
that was like
a prank again.
That was like a dream. It was like Ken Danico walking by, Mike Urizioni, and Steve Webb, Eric Cairns, and all these guys, Ron Duguay, and then fucking Mario Lemieux walks by, and my jaw just hit the floor. I'm like, Tony, this is like arguably the best players to play the game, if not the second best player ever. I was like, I need to get a picture with this guy. That was one I will never forget. That's for sure. Yeah.
By the way, thank goodness I stayed on past 3:15. I was hoping to. You guys should see how many tabs I have open in my Safari, because I was working on the article today we were talking about last night, and also Filk, I have the map for the shrines, so I know where to go, and I'm not closing that one. I am absolutely not closing that one.
And yes, I do remember this. Mapletoft, the Justin Papineau.
You guys got him from St. Louis, I think.
Yeah, in the Chris Osgood trade. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was another one they had a little bit of expectations for. But yeah, I remember Mapletoft. Turned out to be nothing. But
isn't it amazing when you can look back at rosters and see names like Alexander Karatanov? Who the hell was that?
That was St. Louis. Yeah, Karatanov.
Yeah. He was on the 2001 Islanders.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thinking of Sasha Kavanaugh. Sorry.
What do you got, Anthony?
So Pierre LeBrun said Pierre LeBrun said before that Laviolette's contract is believed to be like 3 years, a little under $5 million.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, no. Listen, $4 or $5 million, or that's what the upper echelon coaches get. So I'm not surprised by that.
Brad Isbister in 2001 with the New York Islanders, 79 games, 17 goals, 21 assists, 113 penalty minutes.
Guy from Kazakhstan on the Rangers, are you talking about Nikolai Antropov? So that's the only Kazakhstani player I can remember.
Is that Nick Antropov, 2009?
That's what I just said. Yeah, Nikolai Antropov.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, if you look at this roster, you look at it and go, there's some talent, but also, like, you're talking about Alexei Yashin, 75 points. Anthony, who was number 2. There were 2 players tied for number 2 scoring, 2001, 2002 New York Islanders. Who are they?
I can tell you them.
After Alexei Yashin?
After Alexei Yashin, they're both tied at 60 points.
I know who they are.
After Yashin, I gotta assume one of them probably Mark Parrish.
One.
Mark? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know who the other one is.
Mariusz Czerkawski?
No, he's 5th behind Sean Bates. And by the way, I completely forgot Mariusz Czerkawski turned in a 22 and 29 season. But
I would say something, but it would be a dead giveaway.
Yashin, Kavasha, Parrish, Bates.
It's a fairly obvious one. Yeah.
It's Pekka, yeah.
I was just gonna say I would say a giveaway, but I would say something, but it'd be a giveaway. But
what was your giveaway?
Selkie winner that year.
He won the Selkie that year?
Yeah, in 2002. Yeah, he won the Selkie.
I was gonna say Darcy Tucker. Yeah. It was gonna go the other direction on that.
You're a fucking asshole.
Well, unfortunately, I was at that game. So yeah. But I mean, Dick Tarnstrom, 19 points on that team.
You know, it's funny because Dick Tarnstrom actually ended up having a massive Pittsburgh. 2004 season in Pittsburgh and led that team in scoring.
And the funny part is everybody looked at him and just said, well, he's leading. Was it that year or was it the year after? He's leading in defenseman scoring, but he's on Mario Lemieux's power play, so of course he is. Yeah,
but Lemieux really didn't play much in 2004.
Yeah.
He missed time. It was 2003 that Mario Lemieux had that crazy rebirth. Well, 2001 when he came back, those 43 games, he had like 74 points or something. It was stupid. He was on pace for like 140 points playing with Jágr again. And then Jágr left in the deal to Washington 2002. And both Lemieux barely played that year. And then 2003, Lemieux came back and he was playing with Kovalov until the deadline. Kovalov and Morozov. And Lemieux had like 91 or 93 points in like 67 games. Just under 30 goals, I believe. Yeah. So, yes, he was, Steven. He was drafted by the Rangers, but I don't think he's really going to do anything at the NHL level. So,
but yeah. So, Anthony, what's your thoughts on Laviolette to the Rangers?
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. The only thing I'm surprised about is why it took so long. Because, I mean, I thought he was kind of the obvious choice, and it just took a lot longer than I thought. So, to me, that just maybe spells that they really did their homework on Hines, and maybe they were doing some homework on Quenneville and trying to talk to some connected people and see if they felt that he would get reinstated and what the chances were, and maybe they got bad intel on that he wouldn't, or they just didn't want to wait any longer. But I am puzzled it took so long. I feel like this was the hire that could have been made 2 weeks ago. But nonetheless, he's the head coach now. Good coach, Stanley Cup Finals, trips, multiple Cup winner. I would say one of the best coaches in recent memory. I think he obviously gels with veterans. I think he also works fairly well with young guys too. So I think he's the right hire. Now the only question is how the players in the locker room respond to him. What his vision is for the system and how he wants the team to play. And I'm sure that will all be answered, throughout the course of the offseason when they actually have their roster in place. But overall, good hire. Again, great coach. And, I think the Rangers didn't overthink it here and they made the right choice.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is they didn't overthink it. But I saw something from Elliot Friedman and said where, the Rangers, it feels like Drury kind of took his time with it because, this is one of the biggest, probably the biggest choice of Chris Drury's career to this point. So, I mean, you got to look at it that way. Definitely. This move is going to work out one of two ways. It's going to make Chris Drury look like a genius if he wins the Stanley Cup. Or if it doesn't work out, it's going to be the last coaching decision Drury's made, and he's not going to be around to see the next coach picked. The thing is I always talked about with another thing that I always talked about with hiring a rookie head coach in this situation is it hurts Drury if he hires a complete wild card or a rookie coach and they don't win, because then the other teams that would possibly be looking at hiring him afterwards have to take a look at that and say, what was his thought process in hiring a wild card when trying to win now with that type of team? And do we really want to bring someone along that makes risky moves like that in situations like that? To me, I just don't think enough fans really put a lot of thought into it. And yeah, and you know what you're saying? Okay, Laviolette has a shelf life, though. Every coach has a shelf life.
Every coach, yes.
Every coach.
His shelf life, though, it tends to be 4 to 5 years. Over Peter Laviolette, 3 to maybe 4.
And Gerard Gallant, 2.5 to 3. So.
Oh, by the way, who called that every single time I talked to him? I got to credit Steven on that. Stat Boy Steven said he's never coached the same team 3 years in a row.
Columbus. He had 3.5 years with Columbus. That was his first stint.
And how successful were they?
They weren't good. So.
How about this, though, for a black eye, if you want to say something on Laviolette, that he won the Stanley Cup in 2006. The 06-07 Canes missed the playoffs the following year. Can you guys name the only other team since let me just make sure I have that number right. The only other cup winner since 1970 to win the cup and then miss the playoffs.
Win the cup and then
between that time.
The playoffs.
Jacques Lemaire.
You got it. I just want you to say the team.
1995 New Jersey Devils. Yeah.
The 95 Devils won the cup and then missed the playoffs the following year in 95, 96.
And then they made it in 97 and lost to the Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they won the President's Trophy that year.
What?
So talk about that as a roller coaster. That's more of a roller coaster than the Rangers 92 to 94.
Who won the President's Trophy what year?
97, I think.
No, the 97 President's Trophy, I believe, was the
Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado Avalanche that year.
Yeah, but the Devils were the number 1 seed in the East.
Yeah, they were the 1 seed in the. Were they the 1 seed? No, I think were the Flyers the 1 seed in the East. I think that year. I think the Flyers were the 1 seed in the East, and the Avalanche were the 1 seed in the West.
My apologies, everybody. I'm doing this off of memory. But the Devils. But you're talking about the Devils went from Cup out of the playoffs and then massive amount of success post Doug Gilmour because they added. That's the year they added him.
Yeah. No, they did finish. No, they finished second in the
overall standings.
Hold on. No, the Devils won the division by 1 point, and they won the East by 1 point. They were the only two teams with 100 points were the Devils and the Flyers, 104 and 103. So, no, you had it right. And Colorado had 107. Dallas had 104 as well.
Do you know if keep in mind if Vegas wins the Cup tonight, the buyout window opens on what's today? Thursday. 48 hours after the end of the final, or June 15th, whichever happens later, the buyout window opens and the off season is officially begun.
You want to speak about that? So I got this in a DM from one of our viewers on Twitter. One of our viewers DM'd me on Twitter about this. So the way that Barclay Goodrow's buyout is structured is actually very interesting. So if they were to buy him out, they would get these next two seasons a cap credit of $200,000 and then a cap hit of $100,000 the following season. And then the third season would be a dead cap hit of $1.15 million. The fourth would be a dead cap hit of $3.65 million. And then the following 4 years after that would be $1.258 $1,258,333. So that's the buyout there.
I still can't help but.
So if they buy him out, you're saying they save $3.8 million next season. They buy him out.
Basically, they get a cap credit.
Yeah,
I've never really seen that before, and I'm looking at the picture of like the buyout calculator of from Cap Friendly right now.
Yeah,
and
I have it on my phone. Yeah,
a cap credit. Yeah, that's interesting. So the way that Drury structured that deal to have that buyout like that, that's actually pretty smart. So maybe Barclay Goodrow is a buyout option for the New York Rangers. It wouldn't be a great look, but I mean, they're tied on cap, and if they can clear $3.8 million in cap, man, that could go a long way towards doing other things.
I think that's. I know it could. I just don't want. I don't like the look of that. I mean, but then again, when we were discussing the possibility of Jacob Trouba getting bought out, and those numbers looked a lot more.
I don't think that's happening.
That's not. We just looked at the thing on Cap Friendly. That's not.
Yeah, we're
correct.
What?
This comment is not correct.
Sorry, David. That's not correct at all.
They saved 3.8.
It's a negative cap hit, which means they get this comment is really okay. So it's a negative cap hit. So they get a cap credit. That's what that minus is. It's a cap credit.
Yeah, what that's saying is out of his salary, only $200,000 of it is counting towards the cap this year.
No,
the rest you save.
Yeah, it's not the case. Because if they would have said dead cap hit, and then it would have said 200,000 next to it, but it's minus 200,000, so it's a cap credit. So, David, so am I. I'll show you what. Yeah, David is looking at the cap hit, not the cap savings. This is definitely the case because I'm looking at the picture literally right now, and that's what he's. Jacob Trouba's buyout is not a good one. This year, it would only be $2,222,222 would go against the cap. Then the next year, it goes up to $4,222,222 for the following two seasons, and then it goes back down for the next three to $222,222.
And of course, by the way, Marc Messier is trending on Twitter.
Lewis is not a fan.
Let it go, people.
Yeah.
Jay Lewis is saying it's a shame they can't find a taker for the fake Panarin, or when he wants to give an interview. Yeah. See, I don't know how to feel about those things sometimes. Because Carlos Beltran needs to talk about how sometimes guys just aren't confident. But I think I know what Jay's going at with this. When he doesn't want to say anything, he suddenly doesn't command English well.
No, I kind of agree with Jay. He's been in the country for a while now. Make an effort to speak English. Like, don't hide. Like, and also Mike's following this up. You know, Igor does, media availabilities in English sometimes. Tarasenko, Ilya Sorokin does English, media availabilities after games, and he's only been here, 2-3 years now. Panarin's been here a long time, and the guy doesn't speak English. I think it's, I don't like it. I don't like it.
You know what? The only thing I will say is that it's when things aren't going well is when he doesn't want to do it, and when things are going well, he's okay with doing it. So, I can tell you right now, we've seen him on Instagram and other social media platforms speaking perfect English. He could speak English just fine. So, that's my only problem with it. Don't not speak and say that you can't speak English just because you don't want to answer the tough questions after the bad losses. Mm-hmm. But I do have to go back to work, so I'm going to get going. I will talk to you guys later. Everybody enjoy Peter Laviolette.
See you later, Phil.
And we'll do more about the draft coming up and stuff like that. We'll
Phil,
figure
just before you go off, how many times do you think I mispronounced Laviolette's name today?
It was 6.
Okay, I think the last one was 6. I think that was the last count. But nope, I just lost the light. So I got to charge those for tomorrow's show because we're going to be doing the show tomorrow night. This was sort of just a special one. We just jumped on. Phil, take it easy. We'll see you later.
Take care, everybody.
All right.
See you later.
And Anthony, right back. And that's why we wanted to remind you, show tomorrow night. 41 of you are still watching us right now. And Anthony is right now doing his StreamYard tutorial where he finds out everything you need to know about the program.
You know what I realized when I was at work before, and it could be useful to maybe getting more viewers and whatnot, but I was watching on Twitter, and you could make a comment, but I don't think it comes up on here as you seeing it.
Really? All right.
So, yeah, because I made a comment. You didn't see any comments from me pop up on Twitter early in your broadcast, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't. So yeah, it doesn't. You don't get it. You don't get it on here. So
it used to happen all the time.
So if we get more people watching via Twitter, I think that will only increase the amount of people we have that watch our shows while we're doing it. And also too, I played around on Instagram. You could watch. I was able to watch you on Instagram too, but again, same thing with making a comment. I didn't see any avenue for me to make a comment on Instagram that you could see live while you're doing it. You need to try to figure out something where we could see comments from all platforms of people watching.
It's something that I'm always trying to look for and trying to figure out. There's I think called not CyberDuck. That was a different thing. There's a program that does that on there that will relay this over, but they're only going to do it long ways. So I'd have to figure out how to do it. I would have to figure out how to do it landscape because that's the format YouTube and all the rest of them use.
It's worth it to look into that. But anyway, I got to head out too. I got to get my daughter off the bus in a couple of minutes. So
yes,
good job holding the fort down. Good job holding the fort down by yourself there for a while. I'll give you credit.
Good job. Good job coming on with a cameo.
Next time. Yeah, next time pronounce your coach's name right, okay? You gotta.
I got it. I think I got it down. I think my problem was when I was younger, I used to call him Laviolette.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy.
All right. Yeah. I'll see you. I'll talk to you soon. By the way, get me some more info. You said you.
I will get you some more info as soon as possible. As soon as possible.
You're killing me here. Kill me. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. How many years is it for Laviolette? It's 3. I love some of these. Patrick Laviolette. Laviolette. Peter Laviolette. La Corvette. And I know Anthony went off, but I got that right there. I'm just going to move him on. That would be a good one. Steven saying, I'm sad we missed out on all the Heinz puns. We could add the Heinz post-game interview 2020, hindsight, Heinz catch-up. Yeah, whoever he is, hope he doesn't blow 2-0 series leads where you trounce the other team. Matt Cohn, hey, I'm okay with this hire. By the way, welcome to the show. This is the first time I've seen you. I'm okay with this hire. It's not my first choice. Hopefully they give him more rope than 2 seasons. It'll be interesting to see the Rangers actually make offensive and defensive adjustments. That's the biggest problem. They did not make adjustments. And at times Gallant did, at times they don't. This is the reason why I think I'm behind you on that, Steven. If they buy out Gaudreau, the Rangers will go 15 straight seasons with cap penalties on their books. Yeah, I don't think you can exist buying out guys all the time. Chris, I would love for that to even remotely be true, but I think that, and I know they're high on them, but the Rangers don't have the cap space for both Besser and Garland, I don't think. I think that would be, off the top of my head, I think that's $11 million. But I'm not going to get on that right now because, Steven corrects out at 14. So even though my lighting went down, I think the lighting is a little bit better, but now you can clearly see what's right behind me if you blow that up. I do think Ottman is going to be a very good contributor next year. Yeah, but it's unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to dump no shows like Panarin and Trouba in the playoffs. That'll aid cap space. Yeah, but the problem is, and again, one guy that needs to get some blame out of this is Jeff Gorton. Jeff Gorton signed those 2 contracts. You saddled the Rangers with $19.5 million worth of salary. And look, you're getting 90-point productions out of Panarin, but Trouba has been far from the number 1 defenseman everybody thought he was going to be. Lauren, how you doing? All right. And I got 4 more minutes, guys. So I'm going to go 4 more minutes, and that's it. It's great. I actually said I'll go to 3:15, and then I end up with Filk and Anthony coming on. The part of the hockey Triforce. Speaking about which, I'm going to have to, I guess, postpone the rest of this article because I'm going to be talking about players that teams gave up on. Stay tuned for that. That should come out, I don't think any later than Friday. Maybe Saturday at the latest. Just buy out both. Maybe. Yeah, also, but Jay, I think one thing to also remember is some players, and I'm just saying this as a defense. I do know when that Panarin does stuff like this. But I saw Steven's comment right below that, so I had to laugh. I think one of the things is that some players don't feel comfortable if they're asked a tough question. That's why you should always have an interpreter next to him anyway. Carlos Beltran fought for this in baseball for years, and now that's the norm. And I can't really say much because one of my favorite players over the last 25 years is Ichiro. Ichiro never spoke English. He talked. He had an interpreter with him the entire time. But Igor has no issues with the media. And also, you can't just say Russian guy. They're both the same thing as far as how they figure it out. I've worked in restaurants for years. And never mind, I could bring up the New York Mets again. Ray Ordonez, not good with English whatsoever. And Edgardo Alfonso, totally fluent, barely any accent. I was about to say no accent, barely any accent. So it's hard to tell sometimes the learning abilities of both people. Steven is saying Marc Messier is trending because some kid in his mom's basement keeps pretending he has a source saying Messier was interviewed, and no, he wasn't, because no, that's Jim Dolan trying to say Messier. Drury was definitely not up for that. And by the way, Marc Messier, if he was signed by the Rangers, you think he'd listen to Drury, the president of the team? AZ is saying, what I do not like about Panarin is that he's going into the offensive zone, button hook, pass to the trailer, or turnover. Yeah, well, equals turnover, I should say. But there was a guy that did the button hook a lot. His name was Wayne Gretzky. So Babcock is going to Columbus. Who will take Ramsey's spot? I think Rams. If we have to know the trainer's name, it's either because he's really good or he's really bad. I would like to see Hank as an assistant goalie coach. That's definitely not happening. Maybe later on in years, but Hank is got TV down. He has been amazing on that. Mark's light goes out in more ways than one. And yeah, Hank is killing it on TV. I'm just going to jump ahead. I'm going to see if I can get to. Hey, Scotty, how you doing? I don't think the Rangers can afford Tom Wilson. And also, I don't know if I want to take a chance on Tom Wilson. I don't know if he's starting to break down. That's another thing. We'll see about that one. All right. Who started the Rangers? We're going to, I don't know, maybe somebody in their parents' basement again. Fortunately, I'm not in my parents' basement. They're 70 years old and in Arizona, so I don't have to worry about that. All right, everybody, I'm going to kick off the music right now, start this up, and get ready to go. This was a special stream today. It was only supposed to go an hour, so we're at 2 o'clock right now. And I'm going to have to figure out something for draft day coverage or draft coverage because we're definitely going to be talking about the draft. Hopefully, Steven, I'll talk to you about that. And because we're going to have some draft questions coming up. Yes, but fast going back to the Rangers, it could happen, but I don't know about that. Zach Jones for Jack Drury would be good for both teams. I will say this. Well, I mean, Jay Lewis, you remember there's as I'm getting distracted over here. Yeah, I mean, Ken Jordander was the same thing for a while with the Rangers. You got those quadruple A players. They come up, they do something, and then that's it. By the way, everybody, don't forget your friends' birthdays, like May 29th, when my buddy Scott was around. But I've been forgetful as of late, so don't be doing that. Everybody, once again, thank you very. And hold on, I don't know if Lava Coffee or and Kako are duds. Get what you can for them. Kako, I had to believe 100-mile-an-hour practice shot. Yet barely hits the net on game nights. Okay, but then again, the article I'm working on right now, Chris, I will probably tag you in the post for it, because there's been cases, plenty of them, of guys that gave up on someone too early, and then they flourish elsewhere. The first name on the list, don't look any further than last year, Kirby Dach. Kirby Dach went from pretty much a bust in 3 years, but a little bit of, he had injury issues, and then Rangers gave up on Duclair. Rangers didn't give up on Brett Howden. Brett Howden they should have given up on. But you never know what these guys are going to do to develop. But I think one reason why the Rangers gave up on Duclair is because they were high on Buchnevich at the time. So yeah, it's a good question. I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong, because the jury's still out. We're going to find out about that very soon. But once again, everybody, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget the weekly show is tomorrow night. It's usually at like 5:45. I put down 6 just in case. But you could always catch up to us. And there's going to be Stanley Cup Finals talk. Does Vegas raise the cup tonight and the offseason begin? We'll see about that one. And there's a whole lot of things that we're going to be talking about. The Columbus Blue Jackets making a lot of moves. I mean, that's something perplexing to me. But the scouting suck and whole organization thought Nemeth and other scrubs like Blackwell were NHL players. By the way, Jay, thank you, because I still don't understand why Colin Blackwell was still a thing. But anyway, everybody, got to listen to my cousin Phil and his old song, God Rest His Soul, passed away in 2011. And we're going to be going bye-bye, and we will see you tomorrow night.